What's going on, everybody? Here we are on another Wednesday. You know, we are into December. We are rolling. I had such a great time, an amazing time, really, with Lucy, Molly, and Megan. When our whole family went down to San Diego, Lucy had a soccer tournament. Her team went undefeated. They were 3-0. She had a goal. She had several assists. Absolutely great memories that we made down there in San Diego. It's such a beautiful area, and this time of year, the weather is absolutely incredible. So we had so much fun down there. I am happy to be home. I've got 2.5 more weeks until my winter break starts of 2 weeks off. We've got some big plans for that time off as well. So we won't be home sitting around resting, I'll tell you that much. We will be on the go. So that said, enough about me. This is my episode where I do my Q&A and I answer your questions with my opinions. Let me just say, for the record, remember, everything that I say on my channel is an opinion unless it's data driven. If I run numbers and I find averages or I find recent sales, those aren't opinions. But anything else is an opinion. And that's the beauty of this. You know, I listen for years and years and years and years and years when I would turn on the radio, even as like a teenager, I was not listening to music most of the time. Most of the time, I was listening to talk radio because I love hearing thoughts. I love hearing ideas. I like hearing opinions. I like hearing people who can disagree and still be okay with that. Imagine that. Imagine living in a place where two people could have different opinions, but still be able to coexist. What a world that we used to live in. If you have different opinions from the opinions that I share here today, I encourage you to share your thoughts. That's the whole point. The only thing I ask is that we do it nicely. That said, let's go ahead and take a look at this week's first question. Hi, Greg. I'm curious how you handle hobby burnout, if you ever have dealt with it. I find I tend to not get burnt out as much as my friends who are into newer releases, but I do occasionally take a month or so off from time to time. It's usually at those points when I shift my focus and start to go after a different set or area of the hobby and get excited all over again. Is it similar for you, or do you have any advice on how to avoid getting burnt out in the first place? Thanks for your time and everything you do for the hobby. All right, this is a topic I hear a lot of people talk about, hobby burnout, how to avoid hobby burnout. I know a lot of channels have taken periods of time off and they've stepped away from cards for a little bit. I know that a lot of collectors kind of go in waves in certain seasons or times of the year. They're more active than others. So the question of how do I deal with hobby burnout? Well, let me first say my hobby, this hobby of sports cards that I participate in, has really become two different hobbies. It's really the hobby of the cards themselves. That's one part of the hobby within the hobby. And then the other hobby within the hobby is this channel, is making videos, is interacting with people, is, you know, going back and forth and sharing thoughts and reading comments and reading questions and giving opinions just like this. Let me start with the card portion. As far as the cards are concerned, I can genuinely say that I personally have never experienced burnout from the cards themselves. That I have had, you know, we've all been through stuff in our lives. And what I have found is that what cards have been for me has always been an escape, as it's been a way for me to turn my brain off from stress and worry and problems, and allows me to just enjoy something. And it allows me to tamper down some of the flare-ups that happen in life with issues that I deal with. So if I look through my whole life and I look at different periods of time and I look at how did I react and when was I most into cards and when was I least into cards, all of the times that I was the most heavily involved in cards is when I had something going on that was a struggle that I was dealing with. Now, I don't know if any of you all care about we all have struggles. I'm no different than anyone else. We all have peaks and we all have valleys, and some of you are in valleys right now. Some of you are in peaks right now. Some of you, everything is going great, and some of you are dealing with some serious stuff. I know a couple of my friends who I think will probably be watching this. I know they are dealing with some real life stuff right now, like real life stuff. And for me, cards were always my way to stop worrying about it. It was the distraction. When I got first heavy into cards, I was dealing with the divorce of my parents. It was dealing with the new reality of two households, half the time with mom, half the time with dad. It was dealing with the financial fallout of having, instead of two incomes for one home, it was two incomes for two homes. And the fallout from that was actually fairly significant. And I have a feeling, having read some of the questions that are coming up, I'll kind of come back to that in a little bit. But then in college, I went through kind of some stuff during college, and I got heavy into cards again then during my college time. And again, it was just a great distraction for me. And a lot of people I know got back into cards during COVID because it was sort of a distraction, a release from the problems and the stress and the anxiety that happened there. For me, it actually started a little before COVID. I had some fairly significant health stuff. And the fairly significant health stuff took my mind to some pretty dark places. It was some pretty darn dark places when you start hearing the terms and the diagnoses that doctors are handing out. You say, man, this is like some real life stuff here. This is real. And so I needed to find a way to get my mind into something else and not to just, marinate on these problems as I'm going through tests and as I'm going through surgeries and as I'm going through procedures and all sorts of things. And what came out of it is it got me back in. And when we go through negative times, I think that there are a lot of ways that people can handle it. And I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I don't even really know if I know the difference between the two. But what I know is, one way when you have negative thoughts to get yourself from going down that dark rabbit hole is to think about something positive, is to think about something happy. It's like in the movie Happy Gilmore, whenever he would start to have these anger flare-ups, he would think about the girl that he liked and this certain music would come on and it was how he calmed himself down. I mean, take the advice from Happy Gilmore and go that route. So as far as cards has been concerned, I wouldn't say that I've been burned out at any point since I've really been back in this wave. But I would say that as far as my channel is concerned, there have been some times where I felt a little bit of burnout. Now, it wasn't burnout because of the amount of work, I don't think. I spend a fair amount of time on my channel. I know some people, when they do a video, they'll hit record, they'll talk into the camera, they'll hit end, and then they upload it, and then that's it. And that's fine, that's great. I tend to at times do things a little bit more, because that's just how I'm wired. And so what ends up happening is I do put in quite a bit of time. I don't mind the time. I don't mind that, because again, it's fun for me. It's fun for me to share thoughts. It's fun for me to read responses most of the time. There are times, however, because again, to me, a hobby is something that you do in your free time that brings you joy. There have been times that there have been waves of negativity in responses, in feedback, in things that people say, that you go, well, this was supposed to be fun. And if I'm having a lot of people tell me that I'm, all of these different things, that's not a lot of fun. So there have been times with the channel where I kind of step back and I go, do I need to kind of tone this back? Do I need to kind of take a step back for a little bit with that portion of the hobby? But 99% of the interactions I have are fantastic. They're positive, they're kind, they're just amazing connections and friends and relationships. And so it's well worth it, for some of those negative things. But there are times that I will admit that I've thought about slowing things down or kind of changing things up a little bit to make sure that it's still fun. Because if it's not fun, then it's no longer a hobby. Then it's my work. Then it's my job, right? I want it to be fun. So, but as far as the cards are concerned, I spend a lot of time looking at cards. I've spent a lot of times searching for cards, researching cards, reading about cards, watching videos about cards, and I absolutely have not gotten tired of it one little tiny bit. Is it better to grade directly with PSA SGC or go through a bulk submitter? All right, so something I said at the intro, anything I say on here is an opinion. That's why you never want to take anything I say and make any sort of financial decision from it or emotional decision from it. It's just like the guy who calls up, Mike and the Mad Dog and gives his opinion on which off-season signings Brian Cashman should make. It's like, it's just kind of some thoughts, and it's fun to share thoughts. It's fun to hear. For me in Sacramento, I'll listen to the Sacramento Kings station, and I'll listen to people call in and why the team is struggling, what the coach is doing wrong, which players are doing well and not doing well, what we should do. Is there a trade we should make? Is there something we should look for in the draft? Like, to me, that's fun. And everybody's just sharing their opinions. That's just opinions. So to answer this, it's just an opinion. And my opinion on this is there is no right or wrong answer. I don't think that going through a group submitter is right and doing it yourself is wrong, or vice versa. Now, what do I do? Now, first of all, I don't grade many cards. I mean, in the last 2 years, I bet I've graded 20 to 25 cards, maybe. So what am I averaging? About 1 card a month that I'm grading? I don't grade a lot of cards, so I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. Going through a group submitter is certainly easier. They take care of the paperwork. You just basically drop it off. There's not a lot to do. A lot of group submitters will screen cards for you. So they'll kind of look them over and go, are you sure you want to submit? I noticed a little, crease that, are you sure you still want to submit it? They'll do some of that stuff for you. The price is certainly competitive. In some cases, it might be even a little bit cheaper because they get like a bulk rate discount and stuff. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but it's taking work off. It's just so easy. You don't have to figure out how to do it. But for me, my thought process is I want my cards in as few people's hands as possible. The fewer people who touch them, the fewer people who could misplace them, the fewer places it could get lost, the better for me. So when I bring it to a group submitter who then brings it to the mail, then it's just one more place that something could go wrong. And I don't really like having my cards out of my hands. That's one of the reasons that I wish that, SGC was still doing, on-site grading at the National and at shows and stuff. But they're not. So I don't think it's one is easy, one is hard. I know a lot of people who use group submitters, a lot of people who've been in the hobby a long time, and I know a lot of people who do it themselves. It's really not that hard to do it yourself. It's just not that difficult at all. So, but that doesn't make it right or wrong. So what is better? Well, it is based on what's better for you. So me, I've only sent stuff directly. I've never sent it to a group submitter ever. And I don't see a situation in which I would. Not that it's bad. It's just not for me.
Thanks, Greg. That was the kind of always wanted list I was looking for. I have a question for you to ponder for later. Are there any rabbit holes you've considered for next year? Maybe some Allen and Ginter Indian cards, more hockey cards, some more women's sports cards?
Oh, the rabbit hole question. we are always, as you say, I know exactly. I'm going to start doing this now. I'm no longer going to do that over there. I'm now going to do this. I'm now focused. I'm going to go after these cards. I'm going to make a list. I'm going to stick to my list. And sure enough, most of us don't. Why not? Why can't we just stay away from the rabbit holes? I think that the reason that we can't stay away from the rabbit holes is because we love the hobby so much. Every time we turn around, there's something else we go, man, I really like that. I need to have that. I'd never seen that before. I like that. I got to get that. This is going to be my only opportunity to buy this, so I've got to get this. And every time we turn around, there is literally a kid in a candy store. eBay and the auction houses and card shows are literally a kid in a candy store. And if you're anything like me, it's really, really hard to control yourselves. Now, I work really hard at staying focused, really hard. And right now, if I were to look at my collection and somebody says, well, what do you collect? I would kind of go through it and I would describe it like this. I like collecting childhood nostalgia cards. At card shows, I'll pick up Ozzie Smith rookie cards and Eddie Murray rookie cards and, Olympic cards of Mark McGuire and Star Wars Han Solo and R2-D2 cards. And I'll pick up stuff like that because that childhood nostalgia is real for me. Another thing I collect is I like to collect the T206 cards because as a kid, I remember seeing them. I was just absolutely enamored with them. The thought of owning one of any player was like just seemed beyond my wildest dreams. But what I've decided to do is try to collect a lot of the Hall of Famers in the T206 set also because it's a fun way for me to learn more about those players. And I like history. I like baseball. I like baseball history. I like baseball cards. I like baseball card history. So when you go into something like that, you learn about the different backs of the cards. You learn about the different players that, I've been to the Hall of Fame. It's amazing. And there are a lot of plaques on the wall. And I'm like, I don't really know that guy, and this is a fun way to get to learn about those great players of 100 to 120 years ago by learning about them through looking at their cards, picking up their cards, and just researching who the player is and why are they in the Hall of Fame. That's fun for me. As a guy who was, born and raised a Yankee fan, and, as a Yankee fan now, I love Derek Jeter. I loved Don Mattingly when he was playing, Jeter when he was playing, Judge now, Thurman Munson and Greg Nettles and Willie Randolph. And you kind of go through these former Yankee greats that were leaders on the team. And I really get into enjoying the history of the Yankee franchise and the captains of the franchise. So I find myself, or one of the things I like to do is buy cards of Yankee captains, from the first one, Clark Griffith, to the current one, Aaron Judge. That's a fun little side project for me. And then there's just a lot of cards of different players that I like Warren Spahn and Ted Williams, and just these guys where I really enjoy who they were, how they played, and I have a special and affinity for guys who played during the Golden Era, who fought during World War II and the Korean War. And that's why guys like Ted Williams and Yogi Berra and Warren Spahn, Bob Feller, are some of the guys at the top of the list of people that, I want to collect. So those are that's kind of how I would describe my collection. And then, of course, my pirate cards, which is just so random how I fell into those. I was at a very small card show. There's about 12 dealers. I'd never seen the pirate cards before. I'm talking to a dealer. This guy had a strong Irish accent, super nice guy. He has one at his table. Like, oh my gosh, that thing is beautiful. Can I take a look at it? And I just started looking. I'm like, this is like the most beautiful card I've ever seen. And I didn't know the pirate on that particular card was not anything special. It was not like a household pirate name. It wasn't Captain Hook, And I'm like, this is amazing. I don't know what it is, but how much is it? And he goes, you know what? I'll sell it to you for $20. And I'm like, sold. I had no idea if it was worth $2,000 or $2,000. And they're just beautiful, and their history. The history and the story that those cards can tell, I absolutely love. So here I am describing my current collection, and I haven't even started to answer your question. Your question was, are there any rabbit holes that I can see myself going down? Yeah, there are two kind of black holes that I feel pulling at me. And I'm feeling it's like, Jupiter is like pulling, the gravitational pull is pulling me in. Some of those there are some modern cards that are really cool. And when I say modern, I mean more anything, in the late 90s to now. There are some really gorgeous cards. And I watch channels of guys like, High Pop Professor. He's got some super cool cards. Dylan Double D vintage baseball cards. Brent Richards in baseball cards. Shane Shoebox Legends, just to name a few, who collect some really cool modern cards. And the more I watch their channels, I'm like, man, do I need to go back and buy some, Clemens refractor numbered cards and some, Barry Bonds refractors and some of these, King Griffey Juniors. I mean, these are really cool cards. And at the end of the day, I don't think that you can go wrong as long as you're getting what you want. I do all these videos all the time. All the time I'll do this video and go, why are we doing this? Or you should do this, or why did I do that? Or I'm going to start doing this. And again, it's just all I'm doing is sharing my journey and where I'm at right now. So if right now, 5 years ago, my kind of motto when I bought a card was, I want a card that looks as close to it looked when it came out of the pack. If it's sharp, but it's off center, but it's from a set that's notoriously off center, I didn't care. I just wanted the sharp card with the cool color. And I didn't care if there was wax stains on it at all, because that's how it looked when it came out of the pack. That was what I was after. And if I had made a video then, I would have talked about that. Where I stand right now is, I want cards that when I look at them, I go, oh man, that is really cool looking. It's like collecting like artwork, because it kind of is. And so I just want a piece of artwork that it doesn't have to be pristine. I just don't want it to look like it, was just pulled out of the trash pile. As long as it doesn't look like it was pulled out of the trash pile, I can appreciate the artwork. And to me, an old pre-war card is like a vintage artifact. It's a piece of art, and I absolutely love it. And that's where I'm at now. Now, does that mean that I'm right by doing what I'm doing now? No. Does that mean I'm going to at some point sell a lot of what I have right now because I changed my focus to something else? Probably. Probably. But I am part of the reason that I'm doing these videos is because it's documenting that journey. That journey is always changing. And so I can look back and go, oh man, yeah, I used to think that. And then you all giving me feedback and you all sharing your thoughts and, oh, I agree with this, I don't agree with that. That's part of the fun. Again, to me, sharing in the journey along the way is part of the fun. It's like going through high school and never talking to anybody. Like, you could still get through high school. You could still probably do well in school. But did you have as much fun as if you did it with other people? If you did it with a group? You know, I never would have done well at homeschool because as much as it would have probably been easier for me, you know, because I wouldn't have had to deal with all the social stuff, it wouldn't have been the same. And doing the card collecting thing with all of you has made it so much more fun. And if I was doing it in isolation by myself, it would still be fun. I just don't think it would be as much fun. And I'm absolutely influenced on what other people are doing. Again, more on that in an upcoming question here in a minute. But I definitely feel some modern cards, especially the late 90s, early 2000s cards. The other thing that I just absolutely love is a lot of these non-sport sets, pre-war non-sports. Oh my gosh. Like, the more I find about them, Andrew Nuff said cards. Oh, he's got incredible stuff. You know, Ryan Nolan breakout cards, incredibly amazing cards that aren't just sports cards. I absolutely love that stuff. I feel that pulling me in. And I keep getting myself to where I'm at a point and I'm like, oh my gosh, am I about to just go take a swan dive into, you know, this new set, this new, you know, early 1900s set or 1880s set because it's so awesome. And I'm like, I'm about to, and I just keep trying to refocus myself. There are absolutely rabbit holes everywhere. I just don't have the money to go down each one that I come across. So I'm trying to stay really, really focused. And I'll continue to try to stay really focused. But sometimes it feels like a losing battle.
Here's a fun, thought-provoking question scenario. Midlife Dad and Greg have decided to set up at the local card show. They've worked for weeks going through their collections, picking out cards that they're willing to sell, hours comping and pricing, then setting up at the card show. The first customer walks up to the table, looks over your cards, thumbs through your $5 box, your dollar box, then says, I'll give you 80% of your prices if you'll sell the whole table right now. What does the midlife duo decide to do? Sell immediately for a guaranteed price or decline? Thanks, Greg. Always enjoy your videos.
Oh man, on this one, I think my dad and I might have different answers, maybe, but I don't even know what my answer is yet. So let me just kind of walk through this to you all as I'm thinking through what I would actually do. I think what it really boils down to is, what is the point of selling the cards? Why are you set up at the show? You know, there are dealers who are there to make money, you know, and then there are collectors that are there to sell some of their old cards to fund cards that they want more. And I think that most people that set up at shows fall somewhere in between those two places, right? Those are kind of the two ends. You're there to make money, make a profit. You're there to have fun because you love cards, and you're thinking about selling some of your cards to buy other cards because you're a collector. I think that's where we all fall. Now, I don't have a lot to sell. Like most of my stuff that I have because I like it. And there are times I pivot and I go, I'm going to go over here for a little while. And this couple of things over here, I don't need as much. And then I sell them. And I've sold some of those cards. You know, I sold a really nice 51 Bowman Warren Spawn the other day to someone who views the channel. And he said, why are you selling this? Like, I don't understand. Why are you selling the card? And we're emailing back and forth. And I said, you know, that's a good question. But I think the main reason I'm selling the card is because there's just a different card that I think I want more. And I can't have everything. And so I'm selling this card, not because I don't want it, but because I want that more. And in order to buy that, I have to sell this. And the card that I wanted more was, there was a beautiful, I shared it I think it was last month, the 53 Bowman Color Warren Spawn that I bought. I love that card. I've been looking for the right one. And I don't just have $200 to buy that card. I just don't. So a lot of the times I go, okay, I found this card. How am I now going to pay for it? So here I am, and I go over here and I find this is the card that I can part with to allow me to put that money towards this other card. So that's kind of why I sell stuff when I sell stuff, which I don't sell that much of. My dad, part of his hobby within the hobby is he likes to pay for his pickups with the hobby. So he likes to use the hobby to pay for his hobby habit. So he'll buy cards that he knows are a good deal. He'll buy cards that he thinks if he grades them, they'll grade well, it would add value. He could then leave a little bit of meat on the bone. He can then take that and sell it and then use those funds to buy something he wants. Part of the fun for him is to sell cards to buy cards. And I have several friends that do that same thing. They use cards and their knowledge of cards to free up money to pay for their cards. Totally get it. So with that said, if we're at a show and somebody comes up and says, hey, would you take 80%? Well, first of all, I got to say, my dad loves setting up at shows. Like, it's like one of his favorite things to do is spend the whole day at the card show set up with cards, because you got people coming up, you got familiar faces, you're hanging out with other card collectors, you're looking at cards, people are trying to sell cards, they're asking to buy cards. It's like a card hangout day when you set up at a show. So if somebody offered my dad 80%, it would wipe out his inventory of something he really likes doing. So I don't know if he would do it. I think he might say no, because then he wouldn't have the rest of the day to hang out at the card show. But it would put a lot of money in his pocket to buy cards that he wants. So Dad, I'm hoping you're watching. Dad, in the comments below, tell us, what would you do? Would you sell them off for 80% of your asking price? We would probably both go, oh man, I wish we had higher sticker prices on our cards. I think I would probably do it because I don't need to get every last nickel out of every card that I sell. Like, if somebody else is going to enjoy a card, I don't mind going, it's probably worth a little bit more than that, but this person really wants it. So I don't need every dollar out of it. So if I sell it a little under and it frees up a lot of money for me to buy something else, I probably would just say, okay, yeah, I'll do that. But again, I don't have a lot that I'm selling. Like right now, I don't know, I might have 5 cards for sale on eBay. I don't know, 10. I just don't have a lot that I want to sell. So it wouldn't be a very big decision for me. It'd be saying, I'll give you 80% for these 6 cards. It's just not, I just don't sell a lot of stuff. But I'd be interested to see what my dad puts down in the comments. So again, for us, we just like to talk about cards like this. My dad and I, we love going to shows, even if we don't buy anything, because the whole way there and the whole way back, we're talking about cards, we're having fun, we're seeing other card collectors at the show. Like, we don't have to buy anything to have a great time at a card show. And setting up as a dealer, you just have a place to sit while you're doing it. It is a lot of fun. And I'm sure we'll do it again here pretty soon. Although Lucy's soccer is currently taking up the majority of my free time. But so yeah, I think I would probably do it. I think my dad probably wouldn't, but I'm not sure.
Which people in your life and what experiences that you've encountered most influenced your journey in the card hobby?
All right, so this question is a question that I have been thinking about, and I'm still kind of struggling to know what the right answer is. Now, obviously, all of the time I spent with my dad with cards and collecting with him, and like I was just talking about, the drives to and from shows, and all that kind of stuff is obviously, I mean, he's by far the most impactful on how I collect. So, but you guys know that. You've been along for the journey and you've seen me have conversations with him and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to kind of go aside from all that I've already talked about for so many hours about my dad's impact. What else? Now, you said something in this question that says, what people or events have impacted how you collect? And I'll say there are probably more events than people, maybe. Events that have impacted how I collect. I mentioned before when I was it was 1989, so I was 10 years old. I went to a card show and met Roger Clemens, and he couldn't have been kinder to me. And I know a lot of people hate Clemens. That's fine. That doesn't affect my opinion of him at all. I rooted for him so hard. I went to watch him pitch live so many times. And when I met him, he was absolutely fantastic. And that made an impact on me. I then had a positive interaction with Greg Nettles. I've had a positive interaction with Ted Williams. When I met him, I had a positive interaction with Mickey Mantle. I've had positive interactions with Derek Jeter and Mariano Rivera and a lot of those guys. And so a lot of the baseball interactions I've had have been pretty positive, which has made me more of a fan of those guys after meeting them. The worst thing is when you have a really negative experience with someone who you look up to, and then it kind of taints your opinion of them. So that certainly plays a factor. Another experience I've had a lot of is I had such bad luck ripping packs as a kid. I know I repeat myself a lot, I'm sure. I just haven't had good luck with packs. And so what that's done is it's made me more of a single card collector, right, instead. So that obviously played a big role. Something I've not really talked about too much, and I kind of alluded to earlier, is when my parents split up, things were tight. Like, we have teacher salaries. So we go from 2 teachers, 1 household, to 2 teachers, 2 households. And that is not a lot of money. And I remember what I would do is all summer long, I would work, trying to do chores and trying to do things to make money so that the card show at the end of the summer, which in San Francisco, it was the big card show, it was Labor Day weekend, I had money to spend at the card show. And my birthday is right, it's end of July. So it's just before Labor Day weekend, or, a month before, and I would ask for money, and I'd have this pile of cash that I'd saved up all summer to spend on cards. And one of the things that I remember is even though I never went, I didn't ever go without. Like I always had, sports equipment, I always had food, I always had all the stuff that I needed. But I do remember things were tight as well. And so when there's not money just flowing to be buying tons of cards and you're having like no luck with opening packs, one of the things that I think that resulted in is being very, very patient and picky to buy the right card. People who have a lot of money, they probably switch up their car more often. Because, if they have the car for a couple of years, they don't really like it, they just get a different car. It's no big deal because money is not as big of an issue. But then there are some of us that, when we get a car, it's going to be our car for quite a while. So we do a lot more research and we're more patient to make sure we get the right model and with the right trim levels and the right options, because this is the car that we're going to have for a while. And so sometimes it can also be a blessing to not have excess, because what it does is it gets you to appreciate the things you do have. And so I feel like one of the things that was a result for me of being a little bit tighter on funds, and at least a lot of my friends, a lot of my friends would come to shows and they had a lot more money in their pockets than I had. And that's okay. But what it did was I was pickier about what I bought, because I wasn't going to come across that amount of money again very quickly. And I know a lot of people have commented to me, Greg, you have a great eye, or some people will say that, Greg, you have a good eye. Like the cards that you buy are so nice. I don't think it's that I have a good eye or a better eye than anyone else. I just think if I'm going to make a big purchase, I want to make sure it's the right purchase, because money is not just falling from the sky. And so I think the fact that, growing up in a situation where, I didn't have a ton of money, again, I'm not complaining, but what it does is it makes it where you do tend to, I think, appreciate what you have more, but also make sure that when you make a purchase, it's a purchase that you're really, really happy with. So I think that had a big impact. There are a lot of YouTube channels that have had a big impact. And when I say YouTube channels, I mean people who have channels. And there are a lot of viewers, a lot of you that I've never met, that your comments have made an impact on how I collect and where I go to collect and things to think about, like genuinely. One of the things with a lot of the YouTube channels is the friendships that I've made with a lot of these people are they're genuine friendships. Like they are for me, at least. They're genuine friendships where I genuinely take what they say to heart. I talk to these people off camera way more than on camera. I'm not just throwing names around because I think that it makes me cool or something. These are people that are like important people in my life now. And so for me to go, well, that channel and that channel have made a bigger impact on me than this channel and this channel. I'm not going to start saying names of certain channels. I'll just say this. The people who I respect the most and I am the closest to, I've forged really valuable friendships. And the thing is you tend to value the opinions the most of people who matter the most to you, right? So if there's somebody that I've never met before, and they come up and they tell me what an awful person I am, it doesn't really bug me all that much. It bugs me probably more than it should, but it doesn't bug me all that much. But if like a loved one or a close friend were to say that, that would affect me more. So there are several friends that I've made through this YouTube experience, and the people that I'm closest with from it, their words mean even more to me than an average person. And so they have made a big impact as well. I know that's not what you're looking for. You're looking at, well, when this happened, when I was this age, then this experience led to this, and this channel and this channel and this friend, they told me this, and then it changed the way I think. But that's not really how I work. The way that I work is I value most input, and I really value the input of people that I'm close with. And usually before I make a purchase or move in a certain direction in my collecting, I talk to you all about it. I talk about it on the channel. I get feedback in the comments. I talk to friends that are in the hobby. I talk to my dad about it. I talk to dealers and people about it. And then I end up just going in a direction as a result. So I think it's sort of like the community grassroots groundswell that makes a big impact on me. And it's interesting that this question comes up because, it was like earlier at the open, I kind of talked about how, sometimes there's negativity and sometimes there are comments that are posted and people might be in a bad mood, or maybe someone doesn't like me or like something that I said, and they'll just kind of fire off kind of a nasty comment. And it matters to me. Again, it probably matters to me more than it should, because I care about this community and I care about all of the people who comment, and I care about all of the people that I connect with. And that's a strength of mine. It's a strength of mine, but it's also a weakness, right? I care about your pickups. I care about your opinions. I care about your questions. I care about your thoughts to the questions that I ask all of you. That's why I share them, and that's why I look forward to them, and that's why I give my thoughts on them. But then conversely, when somebody is kind of nasty and people are like, why do you care? I'm like, it's just, I just care. So all of you have made a big impact on me. All of my friends through the hobby have made a big impact on me. Obviously my dad, obviously experiences that I've had, but there's not like one thing in particular. If you have a question for an upcoming episode, please don't hesitate to leave it in the comments below.